MATRIARCHY IV.avi. You know, with the clan system and instant conflict resolution, we also have the interplay of wisdom. You know, I come from an oral tradition, not a literate one. I have found that when you come from an oral tradition, your brain is more developed because you have to remember everything. Everything. You don't have any reference material except what's right here. You know? Think about that. Think about that. Now, in our way of life, we had our historians, we had our astronomers. Did you know that us indigenous people, we have our own zodiac, our own universe, our own star systems? Did you know that? Well, we do. And now, to my chagrin, but that's another story, but now it's being published. Now it's published. It's published fact. Our star systems, at least the Lakota and the Dene and the Inuit. So some of our secrets are being flushed out to those few individuals who care to find out about such things. At any rate, part of our oral tradition is how we comport ourselves when we politically interact. And among my people, and I've noticed this truism among all people with an oral tradition, is there's protocol. There's protocol in your meetings, for instance. Now, when things are of such importance that everyone is involved in the decision making, is that this protocol is such that, and when I was young, before I grasped it, I used to get very impatient with my elders, and I was very young. But they would get up and speak, and it would seem like they're saying the same thing over and over and over again, just one after the other, saying the same. We all have to be one mind. We all have to be unified. But there was a key difference in each one of their talks, and that they began their story with some kind of wisdom, and then they talked about why we're here at the meeting, and we should come together and work with one mind and be at peace with our decisions. And they come around and they say the same things over and over. And then somehow, right at the end, they tie up what they said at the very beginning. So as I got into young manhood, which in our way of life is early teenage years, I began to realize, hey, there's a connection here, you know? There is a connection between their beginning and their ending. And if you listen to everything they say, you get it. When they come to the end, you get the point. That's oral tradition. So you start listening, and man, do you learn a lot. Wow. At any rate, they would get up, and by the time these elders, I don't know, maybe it'd be 4 or 5, maybe it'd be 8 or 10, you know? But the point being is they all get up and say their piece. In this one meeting, and I'm not going to go into a big long story about that meeting, but it was with the U.S. Forest Service. But it took all morning. It took to the noon break. You know, by the time we got started about 8:30 in the morning, 3.5 hours of talk, of seemingly saying the same thing. And the white people in the audience, they couldn't take it. They got up and left. Well, we stayed. At any rate, there's that kind of protocol. And then you get into your meeting and you get your pros and cons. And then at the last, sitting over here are all these elderly women, the matriarchs, the ones who have been through their second change of life. They're sitting there, quiet, never saying anything. The meeting's about to adjourn. And one of them, or two of them, or three of them, or four of them, will stand up. And they'll come off with their summary of what the meeting's all about, and their experience and their teachings. Boom, brings it all together. Brings it all together. And because they live the longest, their words are very revered. The women in our way of life is paramount. But getting back to that remembering, when you think about it, we have no books to reference, no libraries. And nowadays, that's what I grew up with. Nowadays you have the internet, you have Google. Well, now your brain really doesn't have to work. You know? You don't have to remember anything. You just Google it. Wow. Wow. Maybe that's why there's such a thing as a Democrat and a Republican. Oh well, for another time. In this protocol and the ways, there's one other aspect I failed to mention, and that's unanimity. The decisions have to be unanimous. Everyone has to agree, or no decision. Now let's take a good look at this, because the Constitution of the United States of America was taken, including the amendments, directly from the Six Nations Iroquois Confederacy. It was then, it was 5 nations, Iroquois Confederacy, and their great law of peace. Unfortunately for Americans, it was the U.S. Constitution based on patriarchy, and it's only about 1/3 of the great law of peace. So it's deficient, it's stunted, it's retarded. It's still a great idea. However, they failed in the decision-making process for American people. It should be unanimous. Because as long as there's a minority, the minority is going to suffer, because then they're forced to do what the majority wants. That's not true liberty. Liberty is when you all agree. The ultimate in individual freedom. The ultimate in individual freedom. Wow. I've seen the Iroquois Confederacy, present day, in one of these very momentous decisions. It took over a year. It started off with a small minority who were vociferous and very vocal about their position. But they kept at it. They didn't make any exceptions. They had their monthly, or it turns out to almost a month, with the new moon. And their monthly meetings didn't deviate from their normal procedures. And so it took them over a year to come to this momentous decision that they made. That's a long story, but it was beautiful. It was a beautiful example of how you can get unanimity. The Quakers in this country, the Mennonites, there's quite a few. The Amish, They all depend on unanimous, but I think it's more the patriarch who makes those decisions. At any rate, the point being, in our way of life, our primitive way of life, these are some of the ways of matriarchy, paradigm shift that you need, and I need, and our generations need. What are we going to do about overpopulation? What are we going to do? We're going to allow natural selection. Water is going to become the next war. It's going to be over water. World war. So we've got a lot to think about, a lot to fear, unfortunately. The paradigm shift into matriarchy. Can it be made? I don't think it can be made. The reason I don't think it can be made is colonialism. The fact that I've seen it among my own people, and I've seen it among the American people. Colonization. Some of it has to do with diet. You eat slow food, you're going to have a slow mind. That's what one of my elders used to say. I didn't know what he meant then. I was too young and too into the dominant society to take the time to think about it. Oh well. Thanks to my wife, I've now found the road to good health. Thanks to her love. And her and I, our marriage is an excellent example of matriarchy. Because the older I get, the more I need mothering. And she's more than happy. Because she's going through her second change of life. And she's ready to take on the biggest baby of them all. So, what can I say? It's the natural way of life among our people. It's funny. Women who have gone through their change of life, they're no longer mothers, they're grandmothers. But they still have that mothering instinct. And what's wrong with being a mother, by the way? It's just natural that their spouse, as a man goes from diapers to diapers. It's a fact. So she's ready to mother again. This time it's her husband. And so that works out. Go back in matriarchy to the 30-year-old and the 16-year-old. 30-year-old male, 16-year-old. By the time he's 75 and in need of another mother, she's through with her change of life and she's ready. Doksha.